Today I'm going to start on the HTML document standards lesson. Comes right after the quiz on Introduction to HTML. Preparing for HTML. Now that I've learned about some of the most common HTML elements, it's time to learn how to set up an HTML file. HTML files require certain elements to set up the document properly. We can let web browsers know that we're using HTML by starting our document with a document type declaration. So there it is. This declaration is an instruction and it must be the first line of the code in your HTML document. It tells the browser what type of document to expect along with what version of HTML is being used in that document. For now, the browser will correctly assume that the HTML in doc type HTML is referring to HTML5 as it is the current standard. In the future, however, a new standard will override HTML5 to make sure your documents forever interpret correctly. Always include doctype HTML at the very beginning of your HTML document. You can also just open your code editor and write !return, and this will automatically show up on VS Code. Here they're explaining how you also need to add the HTML tag, but like I said, it will automatically show up for you, so you don't need to manually do that. Here they're explaining about the head tag. So far you've done two things to set up the file properly. Declare to the browser that your code is HTML, and you added HTML element that will contain the rest of your code. We have added these elements to the Brown Bears page you previously created. Now let's also give the browser some information about the page itself. It can do this by adding a head element. The head element contains the metadata for a web page. Metadata is information about the page that isn't displayed directly on the web page. Unlike the information inside of the body tag, the metadata in the head is information about the page itself. You see an example of this in the next exercise. Page titles. What kind of metadata about the web page can the head element contain? If you navigate Codecademy catalog and look at the top of your browser, you notice the words all courses and tutorials. Let's open the page. So if I bring down this window, you can see it says all courses and tutorials, Codecademy. So whatever shows up here, it's what you added to the head tag. We can't really see here, but they're explaining how that would show up in a normal web page. Linking to other web pages. One of the powerful aspects of HTML and the internet is the ability to link to other web pages. So in order to link, you're going to use the A tag. So here in their example, they used opening tag, href, the link. So let's find that on the page. It's right above species. So you can find the link right here. Learn more, but it will take you to this page. Opening links in a new window. In order to open this link in a new window, you need to add a target attribute with the value of underscore blank. So here it is an example. Link href target blank and the text. Linking to relative page. In the previous page, we saw how we can link to external web pages, but this is the syntax to link to relative page. Before we learn how to link between internal pages, let's establish where our files are stored. When making multi-page static websites, web developers often use HTML files in the root directory, or a main folder where all the files for the projects are stored. As the size of the projects you create grows, you may use additional folders within the main projects folder to organize your code. The example above shows three different files: about HTML, contact HTML, and index HTML. HTML files are often stored in the same folder. As shown in the example above, if the folder is currently displaying index.html, it also knows that about HTML and contact HTML are in the same folder. And because the files are stored in the same folder, we can link web page together using a relative path, which is dot slash and then the name of the file. You have probably visited websites where not all links were made up of text. Maybe the links you clicked on were images or some other form of content. So far, we have added links that were made up of only text, like the following. Text-only links, however, would significantly decrease your flexibility as a web developer. Thankfully, HTML allows you to turn nearly any element into a link by wrapping the element with an anchor element. With this technique, it's possible to turn images into links by simply wrapping the image element with an A element. So here's an example, opening and closing a tag and the link inside that tag. In order to link to the same page, you're going to create IDs and call them later. So here, for example, they've created introduction, habitat, media, and they've added that to a list here with a link. And if you click on those, it's not going to take you to a different page. It's just going to continue on the same page, but it's going to take you to where you call that again. So here they call ID media, and that'll be this section. They did the same thing for habitat and introduction. Whitespace and indentation make HTML documents easier to read. So here in the example, they're writing body, paragraph, and another paragraph on the same line, and it's pretty confusing. So you actually should follow this standard so other programmers are able to easily read your code. The second tool web developers use to make the structure of code easier to read is indentation. The spaces are inserted using the space and tab bars on your keyboard. The World Wide Web Consortium, or W3C, is responsible for maintaining the style standards of HTML. At the time of writing, the W3C recommended 2 spaces of indentation when writing HTML code. Although your code will work without exactly 2 spaces, this standard is followed by the majority of professional web developers. Indentation is used to easily visualize which elements are nested within other elements. Comments. Comments begin with less than symbol, exclamation point, slash slash, and end with slash slash greater than symbol, and any characters in between will be ignored by your browser. So here's an example of a comment. And comments are useful to help you and others understand your code. It allows you to experiment with new code without having to delete old code. And here's the review for this lesson. The main points. The document HTML declaration should always be the first line of your code. The HTML element will contain all of your HTML code. Information about the web page, like the title, belongs within the head of the page. You can add a title to your web page by using the title element inside of the head. A web page title appears on the browser's tab. Anchor tags are used to link the internal pages, external pages, or content on the same page. You can create sections on a web page and jump to them using anchor tags and adding IDs to the elements. White space between HTML elements help make code easier to read while not changing how elements appear in the browser. Indentation also helps make code easier to read. It makes parent-child relationship visible. Comments are written in HTML using the following syntax: less than, exclamation point, slash slash, a comment, slash slash, greater than.